Today, the beverage aisle looks a lot different than it used to. America's beverage companies are working together. We're delivering the options everyone wants. In fact, nearly 60% of beverages Americans buy have zero sugar. You'll find more variety than ever, including more of your favorites, now available with zero sugar. You'll also find more sizes and clear calorie information on the front of every can, bottle, and pack. We know when it comes to finding balance, the more choices, the better.
Craving your next action-packed adventure? Audible delivers thrills of every kind on your command, like Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, where a lone astronaut must save humanity from extinction, narrated with stunning intensity by Ray Porter. From electrifying suspense and daring quest to spine-tingling horror and romance in far-off realms, unleash your adventurous side with gripping titles that'll keep you guessing. Discover exclusive Audible originals, hotly anticipated new releases, and must-listen bestsellers that hook you from the first minute. Because Audible knows there's no greater thrill than the one that speaks to you. Discover what lies beyond the edge of your seat. Start your free 30-day trial at audible.com/WonderyUS. That's audible.com/WonderyUS.
You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. Welcome indeed to another episode where we talk and obsess over independent music, punk, hardcore, indie rock, emo, metal, all the subgenres. I care about it. You care about it. That is why you are showing up on a weekly basis or maybe bi-monthly or whatever other time frame you're showing up to these episodes. I appreciate it immensely. Today is a great episode, as they usually are, but you know, some ones are better than others, but it's always an investment in time into this awesome music scene. Today is Marshall Lichtenwaldt, the vocalist from Tehachapi, California's hardcore band, The Warriors. They are an incredible band. I mean, they are back. They just released a brand new record through Pure Noise Records called Burn Yourself Alive. If you're a fan of Rage Against the Machine, 108, all of that stuff, you will love what The Warriors do. I got into them when they were originally around, gigging around in the Southern California area in the early 2000s. And their record War is Hell was, I know, a very important record for many bands and people that grew up in that era. And it still is a record that lingers. They just celebrated whatever, the 25th year anniversary or whatever, 20th year anniversary. It's a hard time. It's a flat circle, as Matthew McConaughey told us in the first season of True Detective. But regardless, the Warriors are back releasing new music, and it's awesome to have them because this record is, it's amazing. It's nothing short of what they had been doing, but it's just a continued progression down that rabbit hole of awesome metallic hardcore that they do. And Marshall's an interesting dude because he has a lot of experience in regards to just living in kind of remote areas and trying to build a scene. And it was really cool to pick his brain and hear about his experience in yelling in a hardcore band. Thank you for those of you that tuned into last week's episode with Sean Ingram from Coalesce. I got a ton of great feedback. I love hearing directly from you. So you can email the show at 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. I respond to all inquiries and, you know, just general ideas of, hey, maybe you should have this person on the show. So hit me up there. Also, if you would not mind leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and leave a simple rating on Spotify, all of those things help. And it's a free way for you to support the show. That goes a long way to recommend the show to the people who maybe haven't been exposed to this thing, because there's obviously thousands of you. Hundreds of thousands, millions. I digress, but let's talk about the weekly recommendations. I've been doing this for a while now, since early 2024. And I've just you know what? I want to share music, whether it's new records, old records, stuff that I've been listening to recently that maybe you've missed, maybe you haven't checked out. Today is a little bit of a cheat, but it's just a record that I have been spinning constantly. The reason I say it's a cheat because it's not a new record, nor is it a new record to me. It's just been something that I I cannot believe how good this record is. So the band is called Meloncolin, and the record in particular is called Pennybridge Pioneers. Came out on Epitaph 2000, 2001. If you wrote this band off for just being, another typical whatever Epifat band of that era, I understand. They definitely were of an era, but this record in particular is so catchy. It is so good. It's like, I want to say it's kind of like a mid-paced rock record. And there's all of these like sort of alternative rock tendencies in there but it just makes it so catchy and driving, and the lyrics are good. This band should have been, as big as like the Foo Fighters here in the States. I really truly believe that. And I think this record deserves your attention. If you, for whatever reason, have written this band off or not checked them out, listen to Meloncolin, Pennybridge Pioneers. I will put a link in the show notes to the collective playlist where I keep tossing records on week by week as I recommend them. So check it out, because you will most likely find a record or a band you have not heard about. And that is the way that you find out about new music, right? I mean, algorithms be damned. It still is great to hear from people talking about records to get the thing. So yeah, let's talk to Marshall Lichtenwaldt from the Warriors. And first of all, selfish plug, my new band, Blood Guilt. We just released our debut EP on New Age Records. It is out now, streaming on all digital platforms, and you can still order the vinyl. We are running very dangerously low to like the most limited pressing. So go over to New Age Records. I'm very proud of this thing. It feels really, gratifying to yell in a hardcore band in your 40s. It feels great. And I encourage everybody to yell in a band at some point in their lives, no matter what their age. And just a selfish plug, please go check out Blood Guilt. That is the name of the band. And the record is just a self-titled EP, but it came out on New Age Records, which is something that 15-year-old me, my brain would have melted at that point. So the fact that I can do this some 30-odd years later is an incredible full circle moment. And I have to give out all of the flowers to New Age Records for making it happen. And really proud of it. So check it out. Anyways, let's talk to Marshall Lichtenwaldt from the Warriors. Existing in the Southern California hardcore scene, I can't recall exactly where the Warriors came into my life, but notice what I'm doing right here. The stage was set early, where thank you. I do remember a show that I attended. I live in Orange County, but I was on tour with that. It's a very random band, but Glass Casket from North Carolina. And I saw you guys. Yeah, I think it was in Fresno, if I'm not mistaken. But what always stuck out to me about you guys is the fact that you obviously were a band that was a hardcore band, but you never fit in anywhere. You were too hardcore for the hardcore kids, or too metal for the hardcore kids, or too hardcore for the metal kids. And so you were just kind of these, you blended in where you could. Looking back at that, I know that was a feature and not a bug. You guys obviously wanted to sound like that, but do you think now that people can look back on your music and be like, oh, the legacy lives on a little bit longer because you didn't sound like a lot of other bands existing? Or I don't even know if that's something you reflect on.
Yeah, you know what? And I've noticed it a lot this last couple months. We we played a few shows again. We played 4 shows in the last couple months, and I've really noticed it because the response has been insane. So I think a lot of people are kind of more now than ever before. I think are kind of just like, oh yeah, maybe it didn't sound like anything else, and that they kind of gravitate toward it a lot more now. Maybe, I don't know, dude. Maybe it was ahead of its time. Maybe it wasn't. Whatever, but.
Well,
it's just refreshing to play again. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, and not to be a little smart, Alec, for you, but it's like, you guys weren't ahead of your time because but you were building on the shoulders of being like, oh yes, we want to sound like, 108 and Inside Out and stuff like that. But no other bands were ripping that at the time, which is always great when you have a band that you can see the inspiration, but are doing their own thing and are just little bit of an outlier.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Inside Out and 108, of course, those are big influences on us. Same with Refused and, even like heavier stuff, like Life of Agony, big influence on me, Madball, Marauder, all the New York hardcore and all the youth crew bands for that matter too. I mean, there isn't a single band that didn't inspire us. We were really into everything collectively and individually, So
Yeah, you just threw it in the stew.
yeah, and then we just kind of just went with it and played the music we wanted to play, really.
Right.
So,
well, and especially the fact that I always appreciated the Tehachapi scene, because you guys, even though you built a scene up there and, you had obviously our Lord and Savior, Andy Diehard, helping move on the scene there, but you guys were not influenced necessarily by a lot of stuff that was happening like literally down the street from you. You guys were all just like influencing each other. And then it was only when you played, Showcase or Chain Reaction where you're like, oh, there's more bands that like we could play with or whatever.
yeah, well, we always knew those bands were there, but I mean, just getting to the point where we could start playing with those bands, that was a bit of an obstacle because, we're from the middle of nowhere. So, and we don't know anybody except ourselves. So like getting out, we really had to when bands would come through, and very few and far between, like I think Over My Dead Body came, Carry On came through, Good Clean Fun and stuff like that, Fields of Fire. And they came through and I would slap them all a demo tape, every single one of them. Just like, hey, here's our demo tape. And then eventually they, invited us out. We'd go play Ojai. We'd go, and then, we made our way up to the Showcase and in the Chain. And we were like, holy crap, dude, this is the big stage. I remember thinking, I was like, dude, the Showcase is the big stage, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the hugest.
And the Chain. It's like, if you play there, that was my goal. So we hit that. And then we played the Glass House, and that was another level too. And it was like, holy crap.
Right.
So,
you're like, this is slightly different than Skate Street,
Yeah, exactly. Or Jerry for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, well, I don't think you guys existed when they were doing shows at Kung Fu Corner in Ventura or Thousand Oaks area, but that was definitely a random place.
We've played Kung Fu Corner one time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we've played that one.
There's nothing better than when you reference these, and I'm going to use air quotes here, obviously venues, but like these spaces where people play shows that are not meant to be played, and it's like, it's the best place ever.
Yeah, there's only two venues that we never played that I wish we would have. One was like Headline Records, and one was The Smell. We never played those two. And what was the other? I think it was called the PCH Club. We never played there either.
Yeah.
That was,
Yeah. Truthfully, you really weren't missing that much, Marshall, so you're fine.
I mean, I've been to those venues, so I know what you're talking about, but it would still be like, oh, those are all places like you'd always see flyers, real flyers that like people would hand out, and I'd be like, where the hell is this? I wanted to check it out because there's all these shows going on there, and then you show up, you're like, oh crap, dude.
Right.
Now like I know why they call it The Smell, dude, but it ruled. It was right there.
Of course. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then PCH Club, you are guaranteed to obviously have your car broken into. And that's just, part and parcel of the experience.
Yeah, dude. I remember my first time going to The Smell, and I was just like, I think Die Hard Youth played, and I was like, I didn't know where I was. It's just me and another buddy were just walking down the street, and we saw so much crazy shit. It's right there on Skid Row, and we're just like, where the fuck are we? I had no idea.
No.
Nobody told me. Nobody told me like where we're at. I was like, holy shit.
I know.
I don't know any better.
It's true. It's funny because many times you as a, early showgoer, like no one's giving you information on like what to look out for besides just like, oh, here's the address and there's the venue. And then you go there and you're like, oh, someone should have told me that this was like this.
Dude, yeah, I remember I was walking around that spot over there by Skid Row, and I was like, I need to go to the bathroom, dude. I just walked into some random spot. It was like a dive bar, and everybody turned their head, and I was like, can I use the bathroom real quick? I was like, damn.
Yeah. You're like, maybe I should have gone into another place. Yeah.
But that was hilarious.
That's funny. Putting the focal point on you as a human being, were you actually born and raised in Tehachapi, or did you come up elsewhere?
No, dude, I was actually born in Dubuque, Iowa, and then yeah, I know it's random, and then we moved. My folks moved us down to Arizona, where we lived on the Hopi Indian Reservation for 1 year. At that time, because my dad was a woodshop teacher and a carpenter, he was a teacher at their school, and he took that opportunity. He had a couple friends that lived there on the res, and yeah, so we lived on the Hopi for a year, and then we moved to Mojave in California in some apartments, and that lasted probably another couple years. This is all before I was 5 years old, and then when I was 5, we settled down in Tehachapi, and I went to school there. I started kindergarten and all that. So
Okay, got it.
yeah,
It seems like after the move from Dubuque, it was basically like, we're just looking for the next desert town. Like, where's an opportunity?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, my dad, he's a hippie dude. He grew up on a hippie commune and has those values and just that way of life. And he was just kind of like, vagabond approach. And then, but he realized, he's like, well, as a family, we should settle down. And then we did. So Tehachapi was the spot. He loves it there, and we loved it. So yeah.
That's good. Did you brothers and sisters in the house, or were you the only child?
I got a big brother. He's 2 years older. Lucas, he's 2 years older than me. And so, but we're completely different people. I mean, we respect each other and we love each other, but he's just, we're just two totally different people. He never got into, the music culture or anything like that with hardcore and nothing. So
Yeah.
he just went a different route. Now he's a professor. So.
Right. And you're a loser.
Yeah,
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm a total loser. Exactly.
I always love that, where it's like the fork in the road moments that like siblings have with one another, where it's like, oh, I'm going to do my thing, you're going to do your thing. And then when you compare and contrast, you're just like, wow, our lives could not have turned out differently, even though we had the same parents. And that's just what happens.
I'd say within like the last 10, 15 years, he's really, he's always asking like, what's up with this? And how's your shows going? And he pays attention and he takes notes and stuff, and vice versa. I, pay attention to what he's doing and, what my nephews are doing and all that. And, again, I live in Spokane, Washington, and he lives in, Visalia. So
Got it.
we're pretty far apart.
Sure. So Tehachapi, for those that obviously are not familiar with that area, I mean, it's a, true desert town, so to speak. What was your experience like growing up in that area that, it ostensibly is not, the center of culture, and you have to make your own fun and, get into trouble and all that other stuff? What kind of kid were you as you were growing up?
Oh, dude, just outdoors all day after school or whatever. Very little supervision because both my parents worked. So from the time we got out of school to the time they got home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, we were just kind of on our own, So and then Tehachapi is cool because it gets 4 seasons. So, in the wintertime it snows. And I remember my mom always made us wear, gallon bags, and we rubber band them around our socks so our boots wouldn't get wet, because they were those cheap Walmart boots,
Sure.
the straps. So and they weren't very, they were not waterproof. So we would wear those and just stomp around, and we'd follow this. There's a big ditch by my house, and we'd follow that, through people's private property and just, make forts and that kind of stuff. And we kept busy and we had a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty much what we did as kids. And then skateboarding came around, and we got a couple skate shops, and skateboarding hit Tehachapi huge. So that was it. After that, it was like, yep, skateboarding, that's us. And then, through that, you find the music and all the music in the skate videos, and you pause the skate video to see in the credits what bands are on there. You're like, oh shit, Pennywise. Oh,
Yeah.
Millencolin, whatever. And you're pausing all this punk rock stuff. And then you find out about hardcore, especially through the mall, those Victory Styles and the Fat Music compilations that were cheap. You get those, and that was a real good gateway thing. I wish they'd kind of bring that back or do something similar, but everything's digital now, so I don't know. I don't know if there
Yeah.
is that stuff, but I just don't know about it.
I mean, truthfully, it's like a playlist, that's like the best
Yeah, I mean, you could just go on
analog for it.
Spotify.
Yeah. But it's like, because I mean, the economy for us kids making that decision to purchase those comps, because it was like, dude, it's $5 and I get 15 tracks. Like, the value is a banger as opposed to just one band for $15. Like, no way, man.
Yeah, then you could decide, you're like, I want to buy this band CD. I
Of
want to buy
course.
One Key Down CD. I want to buy Earth Crisis. I want to buy Strife. Whatever.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Something I find interesting about, like you said, with Tehachapi and, skate culture hitting that, I know Southern California in general, it was inescapable. I, like you, was attracted to skate culture. I was just terrible at it, so I never did it for, an activity. But when it matriculated up there, and the fact that you guys had, skate shops and stuff like that, can you attribute that to any, like, was there any observations of be like, why did it hit the town as hard as it did? Or was it just be like, well, it's just another outdoor activity that we could do?
I don't know. I think just from the surrounding areas and people that have moved there, Tehachapi is kind of a melting pot of a lot of people that move there for different reasons. And one big reason that a lot of people move there is because there's a prison in Tehachapi. And so a lot of families, if their dad's locked up, or their mom for that matter, because part of it is a woman's prison too. So they gravitate and they settle down in Tehachapi so they could be close, so they can go visit them,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on. And through that, you get, these kids that are missing a dad in their life and, whatever. And they see, just a lot of troublemaking and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that happens everywhere, not just where we were at.
Yeah. Well, true. But I mean, there's the two elements that of you saying that of, I'm going to typify a desert town where it's like people going to either be closer to something like that, or that they just want to be a little more off the grid and not in a place that is this major metropolitan area. It's like, nah, they'll leave me alone out here and that'll be okay.
That too. And I did have a fair amount of friends that would commute every day to Los Angeles. That's a 2-hour commute. So, and they would do that every day. Yeah. I mean, my dad commuted to Mojave every day, but that's only like 30 minutes,
Got it.
Like LA every day is crazy.
My friends, you need to buy more band merch, plain and simple. And the place that you can do that is rockabilia.com. They have all of the hardcore, metal, mainstream rock, classic rock, whatever it is, they have in spades. And on top of it, they want to give you a discount. And that discount is 10% off using the promo code 100 words or less. All of these things add up to an amazing customer experience where you're ordering all from one spot and it ships to you from the Midwest here in the United States of America. They specifically told me to mention that they ship via FedEx. So that means it gets to you very fast. No issues whatsoever. But if there are, their customer service is bang up. Bang up? Or, I don't know, great? How about that? That's a better description. Regardless, I love Rockabilia. They've been in business for 30 plus years. They have over 500,000 items and it's all officially licensed. That means the bands get paid. You win by getting high quality merch. And you live to fight another day of buying more band merch. Maybe that's just me, but maybe you can up your merch game and order some more. You get it. So rockabilia.com, promo code 100 words or less. Enjoy.
What kind of kid did you find yourself being? I mean, from just whatever, having mutual friends and observing you over the years, like you seem, outgoing, but also like laid back, if that makes sense, where you're not going to be that person that's like, hey, look at me, I'm the center of attention. But then you're also being like, oh, I'm completely fine blending into the background and not taking up space or whatever. What would you, playing armchair psychologist here, of course, but how would you kind of, quantify yourself?
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty, I don't know. I keep to myself a lot. You know what I mean? I like to listen more than I like to talk. I don't know. Just kind of real introverted. I've always kind of been that way, but when it comes to hardcore, that's where I finally found a place where I could kind of open up that way. So like, starting the band, it's weird to say this, but like, it was like, I was scared to death, to get on stage. And I still get that way where I'm like, you get butterflies and you're just like, oh shit, dude. Everybody's going to be staring at me like, what the fuck am I doing again? Even 20 years later, you're like, what am I doing, dude? And then so you just got to kind of, and then as soon as, the first chord is struck, it all kind of goes away and you're like, oh yeah, dude, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes natural at that point and whatever. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's weird to like talk about it because it's just a feeling that's kind of undeniable. It's weird.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's just part of that culture. It's understanding that everybody's there is more or less just like you. And we're all there for the same reasons. And so I think that's what makes it work. And that's what makes the energy so electric and everybody kind of come together to have a good time,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think you hit on something that is important, just the idea of you, and I know you've articulated this in other interviews where it's like, I had no idea what I'm doing yelling into a microphone. I was the only person who, really couldn't play an instrument. So that's why I did what I did. But it's only through that supportive scene, as it were, where it's like most people have no clue what they're doing when it comes to playing in bands. And so it allowed you the space to open up to be like, oh yeah, like I can yell into a microphone, even though it might not be good for a long time. It still gives me the space to explore that.
I'm still working on it. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. But so did you feel like, I guess that support obviously from, the Phillips brothers and the fact that it was like, okay, well, yeah, we like Marshall enough to where he can yell into this microphone and like, we'll see where this goes. It's just fun.
I don't think anybody thought about it too much. They're just like, well, we got guitar, sweet. We got basses. We got a bass, 2 guitars, drum, cool. We got a singer, and that's as far as it was thought through. It's like whether I suck or not was not part of the equation. It was just we had it. we had a band. I don't know.
Right. Hey, you got a pulse over there, Marshall? All right, great. You're good, man.
Yeah, I think even if I did suck, I don't think anybody would like really tell me. Or
totally. Yeah. They'd just be like, well, we'll work on him. He'll get better over time.
Maybe I did. Maybe I just have sucked this whole time and everybody's just like, dude, just he's special. Just let him do it. Just let him do it. It's fine.
Basically, it's like a long, really long Make-A-Wish. It's like, oh, yeah. Marshall, yeah, he wants to be in a band. That's cute.
Yeah, a lifelong Make-A-Wish. Yeah.
So in relation to, you growing up, finding your identity and, just kind of like starting to, feel comfortable in your body or whatever, did you care about school? Did you care about sports? Like what sort of, I guess path forward for you were you trying to, hatch in high school?
I mentioned I didn't have very much supervision growing up, but I still had, we had the fear of God, in us from my folks. Like you have to get a C or better. You cannot get D's and F's. You have to do a C or better. And it's like, so as long as your report card had a C or above, you're good. So that was the goal. The goal was never like, I want to learn. The goal was, I got to get through school with C's and better, with C's and better. And it's so funny because I remember there was always posters on the wall at that time that said, you think college is expensive? Try ignorance. And I'm like, where I was like, what the fuck? So, the message was always, you have to go to college or you're an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or you're a complete failure and a dumbass. So I don't know. And then, you find out later, you're like, it's all bullshit. So
was there hope that you were going to, follow in your father or mother's footsteps in regards to their professions or anything? Or was it like, nah, Marshall could do his own thing?
No, I think the goal was that they were hoping that I would become something better than what they were doing or, something to that effect. And, basically just don't, as long as I didn't grow up to be like a loser or a tweaker or something,
mm-hmm.
then I'm fine. So
sure. Well, and to that point too, the communities that have been hit the hardest, obviously, with drug abuse in general, and alcoholism. It's like that's desert towns are synonymous with that. So, did you I guess notice that boredom, abuse, whatever you want to call it, surrounding you during, your high school as you were growing up? Or was it always just kind of like a low hum in the background?
Oh, tons of it, dude. Tons of it. I mean, so thankful for hardcore because it it kept us all towards, a lot of us were just like straight edge and stuff. And so we all hung out together and we didn't partake in any of that BS. And then there's this whole other crowd of people that were like, like they were like the ICP, Corn, whatever alternative music crowd. And they were all smoking weed and drinking and stuff at, age 15, 16, and just kind of burning out. And we were never a part of that. We kind of looked down on that and always, call it a high horse or whatever, but we just kind of stayed away from it and felt we were better off just not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out we were right because we all saw where that path led. So it's good to stay away from it.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, I mean, Faygo tastes terrible. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Good.
The notion that, when you started to go to shows or start to be exposed to the DIY music stuff, and like I mentioned before, where you just basically were like, hey, I want to start a band. And then here's, the Phillips twins and, you start to assemble the band. And as you first started to, play those shows, because ostensibly the Warriors was like your first band, right? Like you didn't have anything before that, right?
No. Yeah. The Warriors. Yeah. That's it.
That's fun. And so when you started to, kind of do that and participate and just like playing shows and stuff, I know you said there's obviously the fear of performance and everything, but when did you feel that, you started to get, I guess, comfortable in the fact that people were staring at you and, you could play shows and all that sort of stuff and act a little bit confident on stage?
Oh, shoot. I'd say probably around probably the first time we played the show, headlined the Showcase Theater.
Okay.
Like, oh shit, this is our show. You know what I mean? And like, I was like, and we had all our friends from Tehachapi roll out. And then at that point, I knew people, you meet people from different cities and they're there, you make friends all over. And that's when I felt comfortable, with all my friends there. You know what I mean?
Sure. It's just the surrounding.
It feels good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say after that, it's like, you go our first US tour, we went out and then every day was kind of you don't know anybody. And I think because I didn't know anybody there, it made it easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
In a way, just because it's like, well, I don't know anybody here, so I'm not worried about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I can act like it. Yeah, I can act like an idiot in front of strangers for, half an hour and then like maybe they'll like my band, and if not, it's okay because I'm on to the next town.
Yeah. And then in the same element, I've learned over the years, it's like the bigger the crowd, the easier it is to play. If there's just like, if you're playing some festival in Europe and there's, 3,000 to 5,000 people, those shows are easy to play. Those shows are easier to play than a room of like 14 people. You know what I mean?
Right. Because those 14 people, all of their names most likely. And
yeah. It's hard. You can see everybody's eyes on you, where if you look out, it's just a bunch of people.
Yeah. No, it's true. And plus, like, those experiences are drastically different for obvious reasons, but then also just the idea that even though you could be in front of, 10,000 people, it's like you could feel utterly alone, but then the 14 people, you'd be like, oh, like, you could literally stand on stage with me and like, we can just like practice if you want it. And like, you just feel that connection.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Did you like touring, and did you or did you take to it immediately, or was that something you had to learn to, I guess, get used to and accustomed to?
Oh, I loved it. And in fact, I didn't have any backup plan. So that was the plan, was to tour. So it was just kind of like, I didn't really have any long-term plans other than what's in front of my face. Like, oh, we got this tour coming up. Yep. That's going to be fine for now. And we got this other tour coming up later. And then you start stacking all your plans up for the whole year. and then pretty soon you're gone, 250 plus days a year, and you're just out.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it
Okay.
because I didn't, yeah.
You have to think about it. Yeah. You were like, this is my plans. I got it.
Yeah. I didn't have any responsibilities at home. I didn't have much. So everything I had was kind of with me. When I was home or whatever, I would crash at people's couches, and I might leave some stuff behind where I knew I was going to end up or whatever, and just kind of couch surf and whatever.
Yeah.
And just being poor, dude. And it was awesome.
Right. It sounds like, I mean, just reflecting on what you're talking about in regards to, your father's experience, like just, obviously moving around and like living in a commune and like that sort of just, I'm not attached to any sort of physicalness. Like it sounds like some of that could have just, washed over you through osmosis.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know. Yeah, that's just kind of the way all of us were in my little family. So, yeah.
Yeah. How did your parents react to you starting to, I mean, not only bring this music that they probably were just like, what is this stuff? I don't understand it. But then once you started to play shows and tour, I mean, obviously they were permissive because like you said, you were, unsupervised and kind of doing your own thing. But were they ever, I guess, concerned about Marshall's life as he was traveling around the world?
Yeah, dude. I mean, they first of all, they hated the music pretty much. So they kind of tried to steer me away from it. Before hardcore, I was into rap, and they really tried to steer me away from that. And, because they were really into like James Taylor and Hootie and the Blowfish and shit. So, and not that those, Hootie and the Blowfish, I could go the rest of my life without listening to that shit. But James Taylor is fucking awesome. I still love James
He's
Taylor.
great. Yeah.
But I don't know, stuff like that. And because they just didn't understand it. And I didn't really have a good way to explain it to them. They just saw it as this angry, weird shit. And, I couldn't really articulate to them what it meant to me other than this is just what I like. And this is who I am. You know what I mean? I didn't really have the toolbox to kind of, as most kids don't. Like, where do you learn that? Where do you learn how to do that?
Yeah.
So
it's like you can really truly, the only thing you can sort of do is like invite them out to a show, and then they like look at it and they're like, this doesn't make any sense, but it seems like people are into it. Like, so I guess this is okay, but I don't know what any of this is. So yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. And you don't learn that in school. They throw you in school to learn geometry, algebra, English. They don't teach you any social skills. You know what I mean? That's all. You kind of like learn cliff notes from what you hear from your peers and shit like that. So
of course, right. Yeah.
Weird.
You and then especially too, I'm sure you experienced this where when you start to attend shows and you start to meet people, and like, even though a person, not to beat up on, Andy Diehard, but it's like, I'm 44. So like he's older than me and I know he's older than you, but it's just like these people that have like a 3 or 4 year difference from you feel like, God, they're so old and so much smarter. Like you're like, they're only a couple of years older than me, but you just looked up to them because they, showed you how to like act at a show or something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at your experience with, I guess the business side of the band, like, once you guys started to take things more seriously as far as like, okay, people seem to be caring about what we're doing and signing the eulogy and, making as much, of an impact as you can as far as touring. Did you, because I know you guys obviously went through a lot from the business side of things. Did you, I guess, care about it? I mean, I know Javi took care of a lot of that, but, did you try to like stay involved, or were you trying to kind of like just remain a respectful distance, but weigh in when you could?
Basically there, I had no interest in handling the money or any business like type of stuff. I just wanted to go to shows and hang out with my friends. And yeah, I probably should have been more business savvy, but I just wasn't. I just didn't care.
And that's not important when I say it's not important, it's like certain people, and I'm sure you experience this because for whatever reason, I know singers, it usually gets thrust upon them to be, like the business person sometimes. And like, sometimes they're not the best equipped to do that. They're like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. And so you really do have to find like the people who are interested in that, because that's really the only way that, a band can kind of last longer than a year.
Right. And it certainly was offered to me at an early stage. And I was kind of like, whoa, I don't want to do that. Because I knew I didn't want to let anybody down. And I was like, that's just not in my toolbox, dudes. Sorry.
Right. Sorry. I'll pass on that.
I'm already pretty, neurodiverse anyway. I shouldn't be the one trying to handle transactions at the door or whatever. And
right.
Yeah.
I should be responsible for this cash box, guys. This is not good.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it at the venue for the 15th time. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, dude.
I know this is a random question, but something that, like, even though I know the Warriors by no stretch of the imagination was ever like a religious band in any capacity, but like there was always an element similar to, it's easy to compare 108 with spirituality for obvious reasons, but like there was always this like undercurrent of either, questioning whether it's authority or whether questioning your surroundings that was always connected to the Warriors. I don't know if you ever like had that sort of like spiritual backbone. I mean, I know a band like Point of Recognition was big for you.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know, like, were you raised with any of that, or like, was that something that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was raised going to a Christian church, and, just like I'd say a large percent of, white kids in the 90s did, you know what I mean? Especially in Tehachapi, where it was prevalent. It was just pretty much in our city, if you weren't going to a church, then it's like, what are you doing in our city? What are you doing here? That's seriously, I think that's still the vibe today. It's strange, but over time, I think there's some good lessons to be learned there, but ultimately it's just,
it didn't
for me,
fit.
it's whatever. I just find it hard to believe that it's impossible that so the idea pushed upon you at a young age is that, hey, if you don't believe in this, then you're going to hell. And basically everybody else that doesn't believe in this in the entire world, they're going to hell too. We're the only ones. It's like, dude, are you crazy?
Right.
And it's like, it's a matter of you kind of get, I don't know if brainwashing is the right word, but that's kind of what's happened. That's kind of what happens. And you really have to retrain your mind to, especially when you start to travel and you see the world and you see all these places, you learn by yourself, kind of on your own journey where your head's at, and you see what's real and what's not. And you just realize there's good people and there's bad people. And that's the only two kind of people there is. It's like, because there's plenty of people who are Christians that are pieces of shit. And then if there's plenty of people who aren't Christian that are the best people on the planet. And most of them are in the hardcore scene. So it's just like, but yeah, you're right. Going back to what you're saying, I love Point of Recognition, dude. That band was awesome. And I listen to that record all the time. And I think over the years, the kind of the lyrics kind of deteriorated on me, but like at the same time, I respected what they were doing. As every other Christian hardcore band, like No Innocent Victim, Dodging Bullets, Shockwave, and Figure 4. Figure 4 was one of them too, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've always had a healthy respect for the bands like that. And, I'll still argue with anybody that says there's no place for that in the hardcore scene. I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. Yeah, there is.
One of my favorite things about doing this podcast is emailing and communicating with people from all over the world. And this sponsor is an amazing record label based out of Berlin, Germany called 30 Something Records. I was able to, first of all, become a fan by ordering their Fire Theft reissue from, I don't know, a couple years back. And then once I looked at the catalog, I was like, dude, they are doing the Lord's work out here. And what makes them even cooler is that they ship worldwide and the costs are very efficient to you, the end user that's ordering a piece of vinyl. And the thing that I wanted to highlight that I think is well worth your time is the new Suzzallo release, which for those of you not in the know, this is Rocky Votolato from Waxwing, his solo career stuff. This is his new band. It is very similar to Waxwing. And for those of you that have never heard Waxwing, just think of cool indie rock with a mix, a little dash of, mid-90s emo. Boom, there you go. So this record is available for pre-order right now. If you go to 30somethingrecords.com, the record is called The Quiet Year. There will be a link in the show notes where you can easily get to it and order the limited edition colored vinyl. This thing's awesome. There's a few singles up right now. You can check it out. I love it. And long live Rocky Votolato and his music. I love him. If you even want to listen to an episode that I did with him 7 or 8 years ago, a long time ago. But Rocky is just as vital musically now as he was all the way back then and even before that. So go to 30somethingrecords.com, shop around, and enjoy what they have to offer.
You can understand people that
record.
come with that perspective preloaded on just like, like similar to what you're talking about, like, the indoctrination, like you're not even thinking for yourself if you're subscribing to a religion or whatever. But it's like, no, the people who are playing in these bands and like literally espousing these, Christian values or Christian lyrics or whatever, have thought about this for themselves and like have chosen this path in the same way that you've chosen the path of veganism or straight edge or whatever. It's like, this is just a different strain of it. So yeah, I definitely thought it was, and I liked it when the those scenes started to, for lack of a better term, conflict with each other, where it was like you had Christian hardcore bands that were praying before they were playing, and then you have 18 Visions up next or whatever. It's like, it's great.
Right,
it's cool.
Yeah, there's like Sleeping Giant and then 18 Visions is up, or
totally. You love to see that because it was like because truly that's really the only way that like the hardcore scene can kind of become not only diversified, but just being like, oh, there's different ideas out there and you need to explore them.
Yeah. And then, you see the same thing with like, Shelter in 108. It's like same thing,
Totally. It's
same thing, different field. Yeah.
Yeah. If you grew up in the 90s and you didn't have Krishna beads, like what were you even doing? Like,
yeah, what are you doing here?
Yeah. You had to have at least a wooden necklace at some point just to be like, oh, I like the style.
Yeah.
The fact that, you were able to grow as a vocalist, like, especially when I know the idea that as you do something more repetitively, you should hopefully get better or have more range or whatever. But the distinct difference that you hear between, like War is Hell and then, your Victory release, and then obviously the stuff you've done on Pure Noise, there obviously has to be some sort of recognition in yourself, even though I know you're self-deprecating and you're just like, I can barely do this now. Like, but have you, do you feel, I guess, like a better grasp of the way that you, sing/yell now? Or is it just like an evolution over time that just accidentally happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like practice or anything like that. I just know what I'm capable of now. And I don't know. My vocals have changed over the years, and I know what I can handle and what I can't. But sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm okay for the one show, but what about tomorrow's show? And, the last couple months, it's like, it actually worked out where I was like, vocals were strong the second day, third day or whatever. So it's like, just kind of like knowing your limits and,
Right. When, the end of the Warriors, as far as like, once you guys started to ramp down your touring activity, once it wasn't such a big part of your life, were you, I guess, fearful for what was next in regards to, because I know, when a band starts to wind down, there's that fear of just like, oh, what the hell do I do now? Like, what's this happening? How did you kind of confront the end of the band for you personally, in regards to like, all right, what's next? Like, I still care about music, but like, obviously that's not my path now.
Yeah. So for me, just speaking for myself, it was just kind of like I knew what I wanted to do at that. I needed to change, and I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew it was going to be hard because I was basically just starting all over again. And, long story short, I wanted to be a chef. It was always something that I wanted to pursue. It was a passion of mine. Like, I want to learn more of this. You know what I mean? And so I went that route. I went to culinary school and I was like, top of the class, whatever. I think we started with like 37 students and there was 7 of us that graduated. So it's pretty cool. it's funny, and it's super interesting to see all those people drop off that were like, oh shit, this is not like Gordon Ramsay. This is not like TV. It's
Yeah, it's not
actually
like Kitchen
kind of sucks,
Nightmares. Yeah,
yeah, it kind of sucks, you know. Anthony Bourdain will tell you better than anybody exactly what it's like. It's like a pirate ship full of misfit, you know. That's why so many people in hardcore end up in kitchens. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Whatever, any stuff like that. But anyways, I really focused, and you know, I know what I know, and I can always come back if I want to. I did that for a long time, and then even after that, because you know, I'm now one of my other goals was starting a family. I was like, I want to have a family. I want to have kids, and so I did that, and it wasn't very long after that where I, you know, looking at my son, he's like 1 year old. I'm like, dude, I gotta have some kind of benefits to provide, because you don't get any in the kitchen. And my sister-in-law worked at Costco, so now I've been working at Costco for the last 10 years, so it's been good. And I've gone in 3 different departments, dude. I started in the deli, in the back of the store, and then I was in the tire shop for 6 years, and then now I'm an apprentice optician in the optical department. And so,
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah, dude. So, and it's a good gig, and so I'm working on getting my license, and it's all
That's
good.
cool. Yeah. Well,
It's really,
it's cool when I appreciate you laying out the lineage there, but I think it is like when you're, in your early 20s and you're doing the band stuff and like everything is so, go, life and death. And you never really stop to think about not only what's next, but just like, well, what do I actually want to do? And I just like the fact that being a chef and being in the culinary arts in some capacity was like always there. And because I know that you have experienced this as far as like other friends are concerned, where the moment that they get off the road and you're just like, what are you going to do? Like you've never articulated anything besides like, I just want to play bass for the rest of my life. And it's like, you don't care about anything else? Like, really? That's it?
yeah. Right. And that's just it. And then but my passion for music never left. You know what I mean? So it was always one of those things where it's like, when we could, we would play shows when we could after, you know, we were on hiatus for however long, whatever. And then one of us would get the fire underneath us and be like, hey, you guys want to start playing again? You want to play a couple shows this weekend, and that's kind of more or less what's happening now. It's like, you guys want to play this weekend? You know, if it makes sense, we'll do it, you know? So
yeah,
it's just
right.
a matter of getting us all on the same playing field and the same, you know, that type of thing. So
yeah, of course. And for you, once the shows became, more sporadic and more of an event because you were only doing them a couple of times a year, did you, I guess, not maybe mentally approach them differently, but like, does it feel different to play shows, now or over the past, whatever, 10 years since you've, been off hiatus or what have you? Does it feel different than when you were doing it, 200 days of the year?
Oh, 100%. I look at it through new eyes, man. I mean, especially the shows this year, we really kind of enjoy every moment. You know what I mean? Where I'm on the floor watching every band, watching every song, watching and then, talking with everybody, as opposed to just going and screwing off somewhere, or going to some bar and wasting the night, dude, and just being like, all right, time to play. It's just like, I'm really more conscious when I'm there at the show, as opposed to in the past. It's pretty well known. I'd go out and I like to drink and have a good time, especially in my 20s, dude. I think, if it is what it is, but, and I'm not like apologizing or nothing, but it's just different now.
I am such a fan of evilgreed.net that I would probably do this even if I was not getting paid. That is because Evil Greed is an awesome web store provider for a bunch of bands and record labels. They're based out of Berlin, Germany. But what does all this mean for you? You're like, well, tell me what to do, Ray. Well, how about you go to evilgreed.net and you shop around? You can be like, yo, I want to get the new Deaf Heaven record. No problem. Or maybe I want to throw a Speed shirt in there. Sure. Great. You can do that. Or how about, a little left of center thing with like, how about I want to buy a Brutus long sleeve? Or how about a Brutus exclusive color of vinyl? All of these things are available for you at evilgreed.net. And on top of it all, they ship worldwide, and the shipping rates to us here in the United States of America are very cost effective. Unlike the rest of the world that might not like America, Evil Greed is like, you know what? We got to support the punk and hardcore kids amidst the chaos of the world that we are going through. So we're going to ship some stuff out. Here's your vinyl. Here's your sweater. Here's all this stuff. Boom. It's awesome. I love evilgreed.net. And I assure you, you listen to this show, you will love 90% of the stuff that they offer on there. And the 10% you don't, that's fine, because that's what music, it's subjective. So go to evilgreed.net and shop away and ship it to you in the United States for just a fraction of the cost of what you might anticipate. And it'll get to you very quick. I've ordered from them. I've got it in less than 2 weeks. It's incredible. So evilgreed.net, have fun shopping.
Well, and truthfully too, like to your point, many of the bands that, you know, whatever our bands collectively played with, and like it was, there were people who liked to cut it up and have a good time, and then there were people who were straight edge. And it was like,
exactly.
And the people who like cut it up, like their quote unquote reputation preceded them, where it was just like, oh dude, Marshall likes to have a good time. It was like, well, just because he like got drunk after the show, it's like, you know, that's like his choice, and he's not driving, right? He's fine.
Yeah, where's Marshall at? Oh, he's in the van drinking Faderade with his friends.
Yeah, is he going to load out merch? No, that's not happening.
Yeah, probably not though. Do you really want him loading out merch, dude?
Yeah, totally. Were you kind of on that tip? Do you feel like you were? I know this is like dramatic to put it this way, but just like, you know, were you a burden? Were you one of those people where it was like, oh, dude, like Marshall, not like you were completely out of control, but just being like, are you even pulling your weight at all, dog?
Yeah, and I don't think there was ever that. There might have been, you know, maybe a handful of days where it's like, Marshall, dude, take it easy, you know. But that I feel like I kept it under. I kept it under wraps.
Right. You kept it tight. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I kept it tight, and I got up there and I did my job, and, you know, did what I was supposed to do ultimately for that night. So, yeah.
Sure. How, your experience as a father, like you said, that was obviously a goal of yours as well. How do your kids react to your music that is probably not something that they enjoy, or maybe they do enjoy? How do they react to your stuff?
It's funny, man. I show them videos, and I've shown them the music. I'm like, you know, even the new record, I played the whole new record for them, and it's like on a Google Drive, so it's all one track. And like, I played it on the way to school, and then he's like, ugh. One of my youngest sons like, is this song almost over? I'm like, dude, this is a different song. He's like, oh, okay. Like, they're just kind of annoyed. And I'm like, all right, dude. I'm just like, all right, I'll turn it off. What do you guys want to listen to? And they're kind of like, I don't know. You got any Billie Eilish? I'm like, Billie Eilish? Dude, you don't like, since when do you like Billie Eilish? He's like, well, I don't. But she has millions of listens, so she's got to be kind of good, right? How many listens do you have, Dad? And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. You're like,
I'm like, just not that many, dude.
Totally. You're like, but guess what? That's not the damn point, child. Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, yeah, sorry, I'm not Billie Eilish, bud.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have a skin in Fortnite. Like, calm down.
I'm like, you shut your mouth. They played my song on Daredevil the show, dude.
Totally.
You're
like,
know,
you're like, I was in
dozens of people who know us.
Right. It's so good. I was in NHL 2K 2023 or something. It's like, you just pull these things out that are irrelevant to the child. Be like, I don't know what that is, Dad. It's like, don't worry about it. It's a video game.
Let me sing on my record, bro. I'm like, who? I'll be like, yeah, never mind.
Yeah, don't worry about it. And kind of on that similar tip as well, like, you know, the fact that there can be evidence of your body of work to, you know, your parents or, you know, civilians that you interact with or whatever. You know, how do your parents now sit with the idea of like, oh, like, you know, Marshall's like obviously not the, you know, C loser or whatever. Like he's doing well. He's got some kids, and like, oh, the band was
C loser. Yeah.
Yeah. The band was impactful.
No,
like, do they?
Yeah, I think they definitely had a huge eye opening where they're just like, they realized, you know, that they missed out on a large part of my life, and, you know, and they see what's going on now, and they're like, wow, they see the effect, especially on our town in Tehachapi, where they can't go anywhere without seeing a kid wearing a Warrior shirt. You know what I mean? So
So
they're just
cool.
like, wow, so they're like, there's a new band, and Andy's kids. Andy's
Yeah,
son they have a band called War is Hell. So,
totally.
and it's just cool. So I think they see that, and they see the videos, especially with, social media, they're very much Facebook people. So they, just like all boomers are. So they look at, they're like, I saw that on Facebook that, and your Uncle Lance told me that, and I'm just like, hell yeah, mom.
Yeah, you're like, I'm glad some of our old fans are still on Facebook sharing our stuff. It's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. What so you, I mean, clearly still care about, hardcore punk music, all that sort of stuff. What I guess keeps that sort of, fire alive or inspiration inside of you? Because, I mean, as you get older, there obviously takes a lot of effort to, stay involved. It takes effort to play in a band. So what kind of keeps you, I guess, connected to that side of your life?
Well, you go your life, however which way you go, and then you realize there's things that are really important. Well, for me, hardcore's always been one of those things that's really important. When you start from a young age, it shapes you in everyday life, just little things that you don't even realize, like just how you handle, certain situations, how you handle yourself in public. You won't let this slide. And you know when to walk away from stuff too. You know what I mean? And just from touring and stuff, it makes you street smart too. So you know what you can and can't get away with without getting in like big trouble. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, and just stuff like that. I don't know. It shapes who you are, and it's just one of those music cultures. There's nothing like it. There might be things similar, but there's nothing like hardcore. There's the people you find there, and just the stages you play, just the reaction, the crowd, the way they mosh, to just the sing-alongs, and just everything like that. There's nothing to compare it to, because it is what it is. So
Yeah. It's
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know we're speaking to two people who are lifelong fans of it, but it's like there's comparisons to, whatever, independent wrestling. Like there's, the transient culture of like traveling to places and stuff like that. But you're very right in the, DIY music of it all, where you can show up at a place, you can stay at a stranger's house, they'll like maybe feed you, and then you'll be friends with them for like 40 years. You'll be like, I'm forever. Yeah. And Marshall, could travel to random far-flung places across the world, and you'd be like, oh yes, like, I played Concord, New Hampshire, and like, my friend Billy is there or whatever. And people would just be like, what the hell are you talking about? It's like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah. Here's a perfect example. Today, my friend Josh, who I haven't spoken to in, I don't know, 5 years or so, he hit me up in a text, and he said, "Hey, Marshall, are you in Spokane right now? I'm traveling through. I'm helping my buddy move. Are you going to be in town on the weekend?" And it's like, he's somebody I met. We played their city on Thanksgiving, and we had Thanksgiving at his house, and we just, you know what I mean? So
It's
it's just
beautiful.
like, yeah, and we've been friends ever since. So it's just like, you make these connections with these people that care just as much as you, and
Mm-hmm.
they really love what you're doing, and you love to do it for them.
Yeah.
So
Well, in closing, the last question, I'm gonna put you on the spot because it's funny to put people on the spot for stupid questions. But I think it's important to articulate the if you were to typify or provide examples of bands that were incredibly influential to you on the Southern California hardcore scene. Like as you were either maybe as Warriors started to play shows or whatever. what's your sort of Mount Rushmore as far as bands are concerned that was like, oh my gosh, like either we wanted to be like this band or we played a lot with this band. So you could take it any which way you want, but what's who's your Mount Rushmore? I know. And there's no wrong answers, obviously.
You want me to limit it to like 10?
I want to, in a Mount Rushmore, I'm really putting
4?
you on the spot. We're talking 4 here. Yeah.
Oh shit, dude. Are we talking just California hardcore or?
Yeah, I'm going to do Southern California hardcore. And truthfully, I'm going to name one for you where I'm going to say Die Hard Youth obviously has to be on there. I mean, I don't know if you want to put them on there, but Andy, I think would be mad if you didn't.
Yeah, dude. Of course, Die Hard Youth for sure. Because, if it wasn't for Die Hard Youth, I wouldn't have even gotten hardcore. So, and that's the band that kind of brought it to the city. So, Die Hard Youth, and then there's freaking In Control.
Nardcore, baby.
In Control for sure. I'd say Carry On. That was my favorite band, dude. I got a Carry On tattoo on my elbow too.
Oh, what tattoo do you have?
Oh, it's that panther from the 7-inch.
Oh yeah. That's cool.
Soars through its head. Yeah, dude, I got that. And underneath it has some H2O lyrics, but don't forget your roots underneath. Yeah. So
nice. Little double dip tattoo.
Yeah, dude. We got Die Hard Youth, In Control, Carry On. Let's see here. Who's number 4? Terror. Because Terror is the best modern hardcore band of all time, dude.
Right.
And yeah, there's really no argument. Scott's the best frontman ever, so it's just like, dude, you got to put Terror on there. And I've been watching Terror since I was at their first show, and I've been watching them ever since. So
it's such an indisputable band. Like, you can take people who clearly are never going to like hardcore, don't care about aggressive music or whatever, and then they would watch Terror and they'd be kind of like, that was fun. Like, they would understand it, and that's so hard to do.
Yeah, and then you see them, and I really always respected what they did with tours and stuff, because they will go out and they will play the mashup lineup tours. They'll go out and play with Cannibal Corpse, or they'll go out with Behemoth, and they'll just rock the stage. And I think it's important to do that kind of stuff, because at some point it's like you got to reach a different demographic and let them know you're here, whether they know it or not. And then those are always my favorite kind of shows to play too. Like, one time we played this tour with that band Kitty. You remember that band?
Of course, they're back, baby. Oh yeah. They're back.
Kitty, dude.
Yeah.
Are they back?
They are. I think. I know, it's okay. I think, well, you can rehash the tour, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, this year is their either 20th or 25th anniversary of that record, Spit. So there you go.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, I remember playing with them, and maybe, we didn't have much of a relationship with them the entire tour until like the last day. It was weird. They were like, hey, you guys didn't hang out the whole tour. And we're like, so? Neither did you, though. You were never.
We didn't know you wanted to. Yeah.
Did you want to hang out? Because you never made that clear. You guys always went straight to your bus, or we're always trying to like burp or fart or something, dude. So I was like, all right.
Yeah. But I'm sure that was fun for you to play in front of that audience that was not, a hardcore scene.
Yeah, for sure. That's my point, is that we'd play to a totally different crowd, dude. That crowd, the crowds like that, and just people like that, and just in general and in public, when you try to talk to them about or anything, if they approach you like, hey, you're in a band? Cool, what do you sound like? And just trying to describe, you're like, oh, we're just a hardcore band. Like, nobody's going to understand that. So you just say, yeah, we're like a hard rock band. They go, oh, cool. Yeah. And they listen and go, dude, you sound like Godsmack. And you're like, oh, fuck yeah, Godsmack.
Yeah. You're like, you mean Boston straight edge hardcore, Godsmack? Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, they don't know how to associate it with anything that's not mainstream. So they're like, oh yeah, dude.
Right. Well, that's like every oil change place you pulled into, where you could just make up a different band name each time you pulled in there, where it was just like, are you guys in a band? You're like, yeah. We're Metallica. They'd be like, no, wait, no, you're not. Like
we would try to do like more believable stuff. Like we'd be like,
Exactly.
"Oh, we're Avenged Sevenfold." They're like, "Oh, Avenged Sevenfold." I remember we did that at a Waffle House, and Javier said that, and then one of the cooks stopped what he was doing, and he wanted all of our autographs on a napkin. We're like, "Oh, fuck yeah!"
Incredible. It's like, yo, meals on me, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, meals on us.
There you have it. That was Marshall, and what a great hang. Really appreciate him wanting to come on the show, and huge shout out to Andy for putting the dots together and linking us up to do this conversation. Because even though I'd met Marshall many years ago, we hadn't spoken, and it was just great to dive back in. Next week is another great conversation. As always, I mean, come on, the hits keep on coming, and this upcoming week, we have Billy Werner, the vocalist from Reunited Seisha and Hot Cross, and an all-around amazing dude. I loved to be able to have him on the show because I have not had him on. I've had some of his band members. I've hung out with him multiple times over the past couple of years whenever Seisha has come through, and I just think he's an interesting dude. Very thoughtful, very prescriptive about the way that he presents himself, not in like a curated way, but just in like, hey man, I practice what I preach. I'm very consistent, and that is why I am endeared to him. So that is what we got next week. Billy Werner from Seisha and Hot Cross. So until then, please be safe, everybody.
Are you feeling stuck in your career or lacking employment at the moment? Experiencing symptoms of job dissatisfaction? You might be suffering from a common condition known as career stagnation. But don't worry, there's a solution. Monster.com. Monster.com offers a comprehensive suite of career-boosting tools designed just for you. Our free resume review and AI interview prep tool will help you stand out from the crowd. Need more guidance? Dive into our career advice articles for expert tips and insights. And don't forget to check out our salary tools to ensure you're getting paid what you're worth. Side effects may include a new job, increased confidence, and a brighter future. Consult Monster.com today and take the first step towards your new career. Ready for your next job opportunity? Visit Monster.com now.